Good evening and welcome to the Christmas edition of Have I Got News For You? And if you've just come in from the office party, yes, I'm afraid you did say that, and no, they won't have forgotten by the time you see them again in January. In the news this week, the government boasts that December unemployment figures are 20% down on last month, thanks to the latest job training scheme. Following the complications that arose with James Hewitt when Princess Diana took riding lessons, her new karate instructor is chosen with rather more care. And there's a last-minute Christmas boost for Britain's toy industry as a man orders presents for a surprisingly large number of children. With Ian Hislop tonight, a comedian who many of us look up to as a guiding light for the innovation, the precision and the limitless volume of his advertising voiceovers, Alexi Sayle. And on Paul Merton's team, a former editor of The Sun, who's joined the chorus of people asking for more women on the show, although he's the only one to ask for more topless women, Kelvin MacKenzie. Round one, by way of no departure, is our film round, and this week we've decided to start our review of 1994 with the year's most trivial and pointless stories. Paul and Kelvin, find the lady.
Yes. This is the story about Lady Buck, the aptly named Lady Buck, who...
Why is that, Kelvin?
Pardon? She was caught in flagrante with...
Can we explain that for any
Yeah, that's right. For anybody at the back, mate, she was caught shagging, OK?
I thought it was a small town in Spain.
Well, this flagrante was at the Dorchester, actually,
right.
where she was caught being rogered by a member of the top brass. He lost his job. She made a lot of money. And the guys in the blue hats at the end were also ex-lovers. So...
Can we have a bonus for knowing the RAF man's name?
Probably not, but what was it anyway?
I don't know.
Well, that's a shame, because you could have had a bonus.
Just seeing how biased you're going to be this week before we start. His name was Harding.
It was, quite right.
Full name?
Peter. Hard, actually.
Hard on, I expect, in the sun. Hard on gets a quick buck.
Yes, it was the affair in March between Chief of Defence Staff Sir Peter Harding and Tory MP's wife, Lady Buck, which was described in the Times as a blow for the armed services. Ian and Alexi, the story so far.
O.J. Simpson?
But it's just, you know, any sportsman with initials in front of the name, everything, because actually W.G. Grace was also tried for clubbing a couple of people to death with a cricket bat. I don't know if you...
That is true.
Don't know if you knew that.
Did he get off?
Yeah, yeah.
LBW, I think, in the end.
Paul and Kelvin, mirror signal manoeuvre.
Yes, so Gillian Tailforth, that court case, there's the lay-by. Affects the steering, as you can see. Yeah, she had a very nasty accident, didn't she? She had a blowout on the M1.
No.
What's wrong with that? It's a perfectly acceptable motorist term for getting a punctured tyre.
Yes.
I didn't say the word blowjob once.
Were you in charge then, Kelvin?
I'm afraid I was, yes.
So you won a libel case?
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I like to win one every decade, you know, that's the way it goes, you know.
Yeah, I'd like
Otherwise
to win one every decade.
You haven't won one, have you?
No.
Well, you're still a journalist, haven't even won a libel case.
Probably forgotten her defence, which was she'd stopped on the lay-by and her head was found in her boyfriend's lap because she was relieving his pancreatitis.
Yes.
Well, that's actually what we saw. It was a pancreas, in fact.
Oh, at the end?
Yes.
Oh, how charming.
Well, it's not often you see a pancreas on BBC Two, is it?
It's both educational and informative.
Yes.
This show.
And
Interactive television.
Yes.
Interactive television.
Yes, it is Gillian Tailforth and her lover, Jeff Knights, who unsuccessfully sued The Sun in January. During the court case, Knights and Tailforth reconstructed the scene in the car park in order to show the jury how the alleged act would have been impossible, after which two Sun journalists performed a reconstruction to show how oral sex would have been possible. A selfless gesture from Richard Littlejohn and Gary Bushell. Ian and Alexi, who's up to his neck in it?
Oh,
This is people getting Christmas presents. I got you a bag of sand. Another bag of sand, too.
that's a fat bloke. And that's between the lines. How's that on?
Gillian Tailforth again.
Big Range Rover.
Nice Range Rover.
It's a flood.
It's astonishing, isn't it? Nothing gets past you. It is a flood, yes, but it was a
In America.
Flood in America.
Big flood in America.
In America.
In
They had
America.
this huge, great flood.
They had, it was in America, right? And you had, like, this
Yes.
great big flood, right?
And the water was everywhere.
There was loads of
in
water
America.
in America. And then they all got a free bag of sand as compensation.
And that was, oh, I know, that was Clinton at the end.
to show
Well,
that
he
it
went
was
down
America.
there to boost morale.
So, Paul and Kelvin, do you know what it is? Because they obviously haven't the faintest idea.
Oh, so it's not a flood?
Well, it was a flood, but there was a story
there was
behind
a
it. that we
reason,
were rather
wasn't
There's a
looking for.
flood with a
reason.
fat bloke in it.
No, let's leave the fat bastard out of this, because it's not really germane
What?
to this. I'm
Feeling
sorry.
sensitive?
I think this is... I think this is because a husband wanted to get even with his estranged wife and removed a couple of bags from the river to allow a certain amount of water to come out. Regrettably, the couple of bags led to a couple of 100,000 bags, and eventually the whole of Mississippi disappeared under 300 miles of water, doing about, I don't know, about 20 billion quid's worth of damage, and the guy has just been jailed for life. And what those people doing were shagging at the end, I haven't got the vaguest idea. That's an honest answer to that, I'm afraid.
Yes.
And a long one.
Yes, it was a long one, but it was an accurate one, sadly, so that means we have to keep it in. But it's...
There's a tabloid story. I mean, there's not a story that was in the Independent or the Guardian. How am I supposed to know? It wasn't on Newsnight.
I think you'll find it was, actually, but it was a pretty big story, and the case of the most unsafe sex ever committed by James Scott of Illinois, that's him, who removed some sandbags from a flood barrier on the Missouri River in order to divert a stream of water down the main street in his town so that he could commit adultery on one side whilst his wife was trapped on the other, hence the shagging. The police now fear a spate of copycat incidents, so if you see the River Thames pouring down Putney High Street, you'll know David Mellor's at it again. Which troubled waters bring us trickling to the end of this round, and the scoreboard after the first quarter shows that Ian and Alexi have a really quite humbling 2, whilst Paul and Kelvin have a thoroughly dignified 6. And so to round 2, our odd one out round, traditionally round 3, but this week promoted as a Christmas treat for Christmas crackers, which contains the pink plastic hair grip. Paul, your smooth-talking charmers are William G. Stewart, David Tredinnick MP, the Spanish Inquisition, and Perry Mason.
Perry Mason, fictional character, never lost a case. Always won his cases, Perry Mason. In the case of the fan
Don't
dance...
look at me, Kelvin, it's not amusing.
She's trying to psych you out.
Is it sort of asking questions for cash?
Sorry, Paul, what were you saying? Yes, it is, sort of.
It's asking questions for cash, because, well,
That's
he
sort of
must be
idea.
one of those MPs who asked a question for 2,000 quid. Perry Mason, he was a lawyer, so he was asking questions for money. William G. Stewart, he's a quizmaster now, he asked questions for money, and the Spanish Inquisition did it for the hell of it.
Yes, I can give you 2 full points to that, for that.
Well, I think that's incredibly unfair. Can I just say that...
No one agrees with you, Ian, because they all applauded, but why is it unfair?
Isn't it true to say that Tredinnick was offered £2,000 to ask his question, but didn't actually ask the question, so he didn't ask questions for money? Whereas the Spanish Inquisition were all paid.
They weren't paid to torture people.
It was part of the priestly job.
Well, it's a moot point. Or
It's a moot point, i.e. a lost point.
Well, yes,
Get on with it.
I just lost the will to live.
Well, that's good news.
Yes.
Well, cheers.
Happy Christmas. Will Danny Baker be doing the next series?
No, it's Keith Chegwin, unfortunately. They can't afford Danny Baker, no. Perry Mason was the lawyer famous for never once losing a case, but then he never had to defend the Sun against Elton John.
No, hold on. That's a bit cruel, that. You know, we paid our price on that, you know, Angus.
I think that's what we were referring to, actually.
Sorry, Elton, you puff. That was the apology, wasn't it?
It was something like that, and £1 million, you know. He was one of the early lottery winners. And...
Kelvin, you're 4. In ascending order of bulk are Camilla Parker Bowles, Clint Eastwood, Ian Paisley, and the Duchess of York.
Camilla likes the old horsey set. Now, Clint Eastwood, right, his latest hit, well, sort of, is The Unforgiven, I suppose, with a bit horsey, right?
Western, yeah.
Western? Pardon?
Western, yeah. Clint Eastwood made a film called The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. So,
Which way round do you want to
It's a special
go?
joke for psychics, that one. Well, we all know that Sarah Ferguson's good. She goes skiing for charity. People say Ian Paisley is bad, and Camilla Parker Bowles... they've got the punchline.
They got it already, yes. Yes, they were
Do you think
there
that's
several
fair?
hours
Do you
ago.
think it's fair to describe
Does fairness come into it?
Got a pair of
probably
shears.
not.
Yeah, she's the odd one out because she's got a pair of shears in her hand.
Yeah.
Sometimes you miss the obvious, you see.
See, I looked at that. I thought that was an earring. I thought that was an earring.
Well, I've no idea.
Let's go for...
Why don't we go for Ian Paisley not being a horse?
All right, Ian Paisley isn't a horse.
Well, you got the reason wrong, and you got the person wrong as well, so...
So that's fairly wrong, then.
yeah, that's...
So, give them 2 points then, Angus.
Yeah, bastard!
Well, I'm going to have to tell you...
Divorce.
I'm sorry?
Divorce.
Bit of advice.
Oh, right. I'd have to get married first, that's the only problem. Is that all of them have been ordered out of someone's house, with the exception of Camilla Parker Bowles, who, according to reports this week, is still more than welcome round at Charles Place any time. Clint Eastwood was ordered out of a house in which he was filming because the 84-year-old ex-farmer who owned the place didn't approve of an explicit sex scene with Clint Eastwood and a young actress. The man insisted that if they wanted to continue filming, the scene should be rewritten so that it featured an 84-year-old ex-farmer and Clint Eastwood. Alexi, your wide-eyed innocents are William Scott, aged 7, Kelvin MacKenzie, Tony Benn, and the Maxwell brothers.
They've all been... Because Kelvin MacKenzie was on that... was sort of terrorising that select committee, I think, earlier about press freedom, because usually they're so tough, aren't they, on people. They're like, you know, but...
Not when Kelvin's around.
Yeah.
It was Kelvin's finest hour. A load of MPs, and Kelvin says, introduce a privacy bill, mate, and I know the goods on you. Bunch of shirt lifters, the lot of you. That was the tone of it, wasn't it, Kelvin?
Is that true, Kelvin?
Yes, that condenses it.
So, yes, they've all appeared before parliamentary
Select committees.
Select committees.
The boys appeared before
the boy.
The little boy?
The little boy.
It's a bit of a shame, isn't it? I'm going to have to put you out of your misery here. It's that all of them have appeared before parliamentary committees, except for Tony Benn, who was thrown off one for publishing its secret discussions. William Scott, aged 7, presented evidence on after-school care to a parliamentary committee. The Maxwell brothers faced a parliamentary committee where they sat in total silence for 2 hours. Mind you, the question was, name Alvin Stardust's follow-up to My Cuckoo. Ian, your 4 barking contenders are Harrods boss Mohammed Al-Fayed, Guinness crook Ernest Saunders, Buster the dog, and Sir Teddy Taylor.
I think this is a European Court of Justice question. All these people appealed to the European Court of Human Rights to try and get their verdicts overturned. Ernest Saunders said it was very unfair of people to investigate him because they could use that evidence against him. So he was let off, another triumph for European justice there. And Buster the dog got a reprieve. He was going to be killed for being a dog. A dog. Fair enough.
The Harmless Dogs Act.
And so the odd one out
is Teddy Taylor, because he's very keen on Europe, as many of us found out.
Go see my doodle. I've been doodling. You know Prince has insisted he's going to, from now on, he's going to be called Symbol. It's like a symbol.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be called Doodle from now on.
And we'll have to reproduce that every time.
Yeah, every time I'm on.
Could take a while, couldn't it, really?
It's your problem, mate, not mine.
Mohammed Al-Fayed took his case against the DTI to the European Court of Human Rights, who ruled that the performance of the inspector's investigative functions was attended by not inconsiderable safeguards intended to ensure a fair procedure and the reliability of findings of fact. So he still hasn't got a clue whether he's won or not. All of which Eurotrash brings us to the final summing up of round 2. And the verdict is that Ian and Alexi are looking decidedly... Sorry. Sorry. So the verdict is that Ian and are looking decidedly guilty with 5, whilst Paul and Kelvin are so far getting away with it with 8. Fans of the Radical will be pleased to learn that round 3 this week has completely altered, as for the first time ever, we present our Back to Basics advent calendar, looking suspiciously like a festive version of the Question of Sport picture board. 6 numbers to choose from, 3 concealing major sleaze stories of the year for 2 possible points, and 3 concealing fatuous seasonal images for guaranteed no points whatsoever. Ian, 1 to 6 for you to choose from, for your team.
1. It's Jeffrey Archer meeting a statue. Upside down. So no sleaze there.
Absolutely none.
He's never met her before. He paid the statue £2,000 just to stand there. He was in the news for the allegation that he'd been insider dealing on the shares of his wife's company. And Jeff was out the country for 6 months. So he couldn't answer any of the allegations.
Yes, it was Lord Archer who made a huge instant profit on Anglia TV shares, ordered in a friend's name at precisely the moment that his wife Mary had confidential knowledge that the share price was about to shoot up. Archer denied breaking the law by using inside information and said it was pure coincidence. So either he's a lucky beneficiary of a 1,000,000 to 1 chance or he's a lying git. Paul, your turn to choose a number for your team.
Number 5, please, David. This is what Paul Merson's nose looked like up to a couple of weeks ago.
This, sadly, is a fatuous seasonal image with no points attached to it.
No.
So
there's no point in me saying anything, is there?
Absolutely none whatsoever. But we do go back to Ian for your... you've got 4 left to choose from.
I'll have number 2, please.
Aha.
This is a fatuous seasonal image, isn't it? It's a Tory MP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oily Tory MP. Oily bastard bloody Tory MP.
Sorry.
It's just as...
So much for BBC balance. No, that's Alan Duncan. He lives in Westminster, I think the story was, and he gave his elderly neighbour a whole load of money to buy the house cheap off the council, and then bought it, or profited from the sale, or did something sleazy and unpleasant, and had to resign.
Yes, one of Duncan's houses is occupied by a frail 75-year-old pensioner who has the right to stay there in perpetuity. If he lives there to the ripe old age of 100, then I'll have a sitting tenant living in my house for the next 25 years, said Duncan as he let the gas board in to disconnect the central heating for the winter. Paul, last 3 to choose from for
4. Linford Christie. How do we know that this is fair?
Yeah.
How do we know that's not just punched in when I say 4? Give him the sock. I'm going to choose 6, so go for 3.
OK. 6.
Astonishing.
Rather unfortunate after the stocking coming up, isn't it?
Why?
I think that's probably enough.
We're not here to make humour out of the unfortunate circumstances of people's... Oh, yes, we are, sorry.
Yeah.
Stephen Milligan.
I think we should let that one rest.
Yes. as it were.
A lot of people at the BBC don't want that sort of question coming up in the show. Mr. Milligan used to work at the BBC, he's got a lot of friends there. The Director General and people beneath him don't want this sort of question coming up on one of their shows. I don't know who insists on putting it in, but I'm with John Burt. Let's keep it out.
It is Stephen Milligan, the Tory MP for Eastleigh, who shortly after calling for higher standards of behaviour for MPs was found dead in his kitchen wearing stockings, a plastic bag over his head and with a satsuma in his mouth that had allegedly been soaked in drugs. Don't get that at my Sainsbury's. Robert Key, the Conservative MP for Salisbury, who lived near Milligan, said he was a wonderful neighbour. Yes, you always had to supply bin bags if you ran out of them. So that's almost an entire round of Tory sleaze, and we still haven't touched on David Ashby sharing a bed with another man, Hartley Booth's love poems to his researcher, or Tim Yeo's love child. Or David Mellor's affairs, Alan Clark's affairs, Lord Caithness's affairs, Stephen Norris having 5 women on the go at once, and Jonathan Aitken and Neil Hamilton taking freebies at the Ritz. Or Tim Smith taking freebies from a lobbyist. I've started, so I'll finish. Shirley Porter's Homes for Vote scandal, Nicholas Scott and Olga Maitland misleading the House, or Douglas Hurd being found to have broken the law. Still, there have been plus points for John Major. The traffic cone hotline has been a triumph. Paul.
I've got a lucky feeling about number 3, Angus.
Well, yes, I can see why. OK, so that concludes our, for some, frankly, unsuccessful new round, and the scores so far seem largely unaltered in certain areas. Paul and Kelvin still surprisingly on 8, while Ian and Alexi are careering ahead with 11. A return to the familiar now, with our final missing words round, but with still a hint of anarchy in the air, as tonight it's a general free-for-all, any panellist answering any question. So not that different from normal, in fact. Right then, stand by for the year's news, distilled into 3.5 minutes. Who take difficult journey into priesthood?
Pans people.
Donkeys.
Women.
Women, suddenly, and correctly.
Well, what are
right
Pans
answer.
people, then? So how many blokes were in Pans people?
Women was the right answer, but unfortunately Pans people, just because they were women, wasn't, Paul.
Remember.
Next, Ian Paisley opens what in Wales?
Mouth and is heard in.
Slightly smaller than mouth.
Is it his heart to Hello magazine?
It is, in fact, his first church. Next, uproar as giant pig does what?
Is it shits into a teapot?
It's not actually that story, Paul, no.
I don't know why that one hasn't come up.
No.
It's not.
I do.
It's not joins the mirror, is it?
No. Gets chop is the rather sad answer. Plastic pig, so don't be too upset. Next, Venables puts his faith in what?
Venison.
Venison?
Barry Venison. He picked him for the England team.
No.
Sheringham.
Not
right.
Beardsley.
Unfortunately, we haven't got time to go through the...
Lawyers.
Big bun.
94. Ability.
Drink.
is the right
Ability.
answer.
Flair.
Doodle.
Alcohol.
Pans people.
And finally, acrobatic what for Hislop?
Teammate.
The acrobatic. Yeah.
No.
This is a bloke called Hislop who rides motorbikes.
Acrobatic triumph for Hislop is a rather unusual...
So it was a motorbike, then?
Which lack of Christmas spirit brings this annual debacle to its deserved conclusion. And the ultimate tally shows that this week's asses in the manger are Paul and Kelvin with 11, while this week's two wise men are Ian and Alexi with 13. So, a trip to see the lights at Oxford Circus to our winners, a trip to see the lights at the Hanger Lane Gyratory System to our losers.
They've been good this year.
Yeah.
They are excellent. On which
note, we finish the
you.
Christmas edition of How I Get News View. But first, an interesting story from Chichester, where Prince Philip has been found with his hand up a dog's arse. And in Reading, police are worried that Oliver Reed's drinks cabinet has flooded once again.
I'm doing loads of voiceovers.
Oh, yes, are you? Which one's your favourite?
Toasties. They're really good, actually.
They are good, yeah.
Good.
Good way to start the day.
That's sad you've seen it.
I don't know, it's made it up.
No, it's a joke. Because they're socks. They're socks and they're gloves, but they got like a special kind of rubber thing there so they don't slip the way, you know, socks normally would. They're excellent. Yeah. He was thinking about Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
So was I.
We're back to Pan's people again.
On which final note we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Paul Merton and Kelvin MacKenzie, and I leave you with news that in Chichester, Prince Philip has stuck his hand up a dog's arse. No, sorry. With news that after another disastrous year for Lloyds, one of the bank's best-known personalities decides to end it all. I think the Prince Philip one would have gone better, actually. There are fears that the royal family are having to pander to the Queen Mother's failing powers of perception. And at the White House, President Clinton personally offers to stuff the turkey. Merry Christmas.
And Have I Got News For You is back in the new year. Coming up next on BBC Two, it's Michael Moore stateside for A Christmas TV Nation.